Have you ever sat your child with ADHD in a timeout corner, walked away, and listened as their screams echoed through the house until you couldn't tell if it was your child or your own heart breaking? You tried to do the right thing. You followed the expert advice. You put your child with ADHD in that timeout corner, hoping it would teach them to calm down, teach them to think about their behavior, teach them to reset. But instead, you watched as your child shook with rage, kicked the walls, screamed until their little bodies collapsed, sobbed until you thought they might stop breathing. And then came the words you never thought you'd hear from your child. You hate me. You don't want me. Timeout wasn't supposed to look like this. Timeout was supposed to fix things. Timeout was supposed to bring peace. Timeout was supposed to give you control. Instead, timeout brought more chaos. Instead, timeout shattered something inside of you. And when the house finally went quiet, you didn't feel stronger. You didn't feel like you had taught your child anything. You just felt empty, ashamed, and defeated. Like the world had handed you a tool, but all that tool did was leave you and your child with ADHD more broken than before. You are not imagining it. For moms parenting children with ADHD, the timeout corner isn't a tool, it's a trigger. It doesn't cool the fire, it fuels it. And the worst part is the shame. Not just the shame in your child's eyes as you drag them back to the timeout corner over and over again, but the shame that bursts into your chest as you sit there waiting it out, listening to the voices in your head whispering, everyone else makes this work. Everyone else has kids who listen. You are the one who can't get it right. That shame will eat you alive until you start believing it, until you start to think the problem isn't the method, the problem is you. I know this because I lived it. My name is Lola, and like you, I am a mom parenting a child with ADHD. I tried the timeout corner. I tried to be consistent. I tried to believe the books that told me if you stick with it, if you keep hauling your son back to that timeout corner every single time, eventually it will work. But what I saw in my son's eyes wasn't learning, it was despair. What I heard from my son wasn't a calm reflection, it was guttural subs, gasp for air. Sounds that told me I wasn't disciplining my son, I was breaking him. I remember one day in particular, my son hit his sister in frustration. I gave him a warning, like the expert said, and I told him if he did it again, I would discipline him. When he did it again, I marched him to the timeout corner and I told him to sit and calm down. His little legs shook, he screamed, he kicked the walls, he clawed at the floor. His whole body looked trapped. And as I stood across the room, pretending to wait it out like the expert said I should, I realized something that gutted me. I realized that I wasn't teaching my son how to calm down. I was teaching him what it felt like to be abandoned by me when he needed me the most. That's what no one tells you about timeouts for children with ADHD. Timeouts don't just escalate the meltdown in the moment, they leave scars. They whisper to your child with ADHD, your feelings are too much for me. And they whisper to you, you're powerless to help them. And then in the silence after the storm, when the screams finally fade, all that's left is you as a mom sitting in the dark holding on to your guilt, wondering why nothing ever works. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you have dragged your child back to that timeout corner more times than you want to admit. Maybe you have hidden in the bathroom afterwards, sobbing into your hands because you never wanted to be this kind of parent. And yet here you are. I need you to hear me. The failure wasn't you, and it wasn't your child with ADHD. The failure was the method you were given. When I finally admitted that the timeout corner wasn't working for us, it didn't mean weakness. It meant freedom. It meant I could try something different. I stopped using the timeout corner as a place of exile for my son. Instead, I created a calm space, not for punishment, but for safety. A place where my son could breathe without shame, a place where I could sit beside him, not across the room with folded arms, but next to him, shoulder to shoulder, breathing through the storm together. It wasn't easy, and sometimes I failed. Sometimes I raised my voice. Sometimes I just wanted to give up. But slowly something changed. The scream softened when my son realized I wasn't leaving him. The kicking slowed when he realized I was holding the boundary without abandoning him. And eventually, instead of hearing, "You hate me," I began to hear, "You are still here." What helped wasn't silence in a timeout corner. What helped was trust built in the chaos. What helped was me teaching my son that no matter how big his feelings got, he wasn't going to be sent away to fight them alone. What helped was showing my son through my presence that he was still worthy of my love. And even at his loudest, wildest, hardest moments. And do you want to know what also changed? Me. I changed. I started to see that I wasn't powerless. I started to see that I wasn't failing. I was fighting battles most parents never even imagined. And I was still showing up. So if you're listening right now with tears in your eyes, thinking you have ruined everything, I need you to hear this. You haven't ruined anything. You're still here, you're still trying, and that means everything. Timeout made things worse, yes, but timeout also revealed the truth. Your child doesn't need punishment. Your child needs your presence. Your child don't need rejection. Your child needs relationship. Your child don't need you to lock him or her away in a timeout corner. Your child needs you to sit with them in the mess, to do the breathing techniques with them and show them that they are not too much to love. Because at the end of the day, what matters most isn't how fast your child calms down or how perfectly your child can follow instructions. What matters is the message your child takes with them. The message that says, when I am at my worst, my mom doesn't walk away. She stays, she sees me, and she loves me anyway. And that is a lesson that changes everything. So give yourself grace. If this video spoke to you, hit subscribe. Stay with me here on this channel, and I will see you in the next video.